Hello everyone and welcome to the Layton Fitness podcast. Now, in this episode we're going to be discussing why you're not losing body fat. This is a common question you probably hear people say when they're in the gym or when they're at work. This may crop up in conversation, and the reality is the reason for this is down to one simple statement: you are not in an energy deficit. And by that I mean you're not burning more calories than you're consuming. Now, this may come as a bit of a shock to some people because some people perhaps are tracking their calories, they're tracking their macronutrients, but it's absolutely critical to realise that you may not be tracking it as accurately as you first believed. And then this can be for a number of reasons. One of the reasons may be a miscalculation. So a great example would be adding things like nut butters or oils. It's very easy to over-consume these or miscalculate these, and as a result consume more calories than you initially thought you were. Additionally, most people don't want to talk about the binges they've had potentially during the week. However, that is the cold hard truth. The number one law of thermodynamics is an individual must consume less calories than they're burning to lose body fat. Another reason why you may be not seeing the results you want to is because of miscalculating with your measurements. So for example, if you're measuring your body weight measurements, say once per week, make sure this is the exact same time after going to the toilet first thing in the morning. This is absolutely critical. Don't think you can weigh yourself, say, in the afternoon one day and then in the morning on another day. It must be the exact same time. And in some circumstances, with some of my clients, I have them weigh themselves every single day and then take a 7-day average, and this can help because there can be some water fluctuations throughout the week, especially with females, as I'm going to come on to next. Another important consideration with females is due to your menstrual cycle, you can obviously hold more water at certain times of the month, and as a result your body weight can ultimately mask fat loss. So this is such a critical thing. If you are a female really struggling with your fat loss, keep this in mind, and as a result I would still measure yourself as frequently as possible. Keep this in mind. Also take into consideration each menstrual cycle, and as a result try and objectively measure one against the other, rather than one particular time when you measure you're holding more water than another time. So keep that in mind. I still recommend measuring just as frequently, but just keep that thought in mind and try and be as objective as possible. Another thing to consider is during a energy deficit or during a fat loss phase there will be some metabolic slowdown. However, contrary to popular belief, the rate of this slowdown will not be enough to offset the deficit. Now, you may remember about 18 months ago there was this whole concept of metabolic damage, which was, I think Layton had a video. I think he might have taken that down now, and he's pretty much backtracked on some of his initial statements. And the reality is the metabolic rate will not slow down enough to offset the deficit. And the only controlled study, probably the only controlled study ever to actually look at this, was the Minnesota semi-starvation diet, when they're basically consuming, I can't remember the exact time frame, but I think it was at least 6 months, where consuming 50% of their maintenance calories, and even though they saw a big slowdown in their metabolic rate, that metabolic rate never offset the weight loss until they were at the lowest levels of body fat percentage. I think it was around 4 to 5%. So at no point was the deficit offset by the slowdown metabolic rate. How do you make sure you're going to continue to lose body fat? Follow the following steps. Make sure you're actually tracking your calories and macronutrients accurately. Use a tool like iifym. However, make sure you don't use their guide for setting the calories and macronutrients, because this is based on government guidelines and protein is too low, especially for trained individuals. So therefore, use my free ebook on my website. Go to Layton Fitness.uk and download my free ebook, or you could listen to episode 4 of my podcast, Fat Loss Fundamentals, and I'll teach you how to set these calories and macronutrients up specific for you and specific for your goals. In addition to this, one of the things you'll notice when you're using my ebook or when you listened to that episode before the podcast, there's sufficient proteins in place. When I'm discussing the energy deficit, I'm saying it with a caveat that sufficient proteins in place. You see a lot of mainstream media and they focus on just purely calories, but we need to make sure that protein is sufficient during the fat loss phase. The main reason being this can help with lean mass retention during the dieting period. Now once you have that fundamental piece in place, you want to make sure you've got the weight training component as the main component of your training, and the reason being, likewise with the protein, the weight training serves to preserve lean muscle mass during the fat loss phase. So as a result, when we've got the energy deficit in place and we're consuming sufficient protein and our weight training, the majority of the weight loss will come from body fat, obviously water and glycogen as well. There may be some muscle mass loss, but we can certainly retain muscle mass much more effectively with weight training in place rather than just doing lots of cardio. Now once you have those two key principles in place of weight training, tracking your calories and macronutrients, you can then add cardio if and when required, just purely as a tool to burn more calories. Likewise, you can drop calories subject to progress. And this really is the key fundamental principle to fat loss, is you're making changes to either your cardio and or calories subject to progress. And that means measuring yourself every week, weighing yourself every week at least once a week, and then making changes in response to this. And this is why you've probably failed in the past when you followed, say, a program online or a book, and they don't take this key fundamental principle in place. You need to be making changes subject to the response. The reality is there will be fat loss plateaus on the journey, and that's when changes to calories or cardio is required to bust through these fat loss plateaus. A good example of a change you can make would be to decrease calories by approximately 10%, or you could add a cardio session. You could add a HIIT session to the end of one of your weight training sessions for approximately 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be a huge amount, but the goal of that cardio session is to increase calories burned, and then over the course of the week we should have a small deficit to continue losing body fat. Now some very good ballpark objective figures to aim for is 0.5 to 1% weight loss per week. So if you fail to meet that target, that's when it's a case of making a change. Additionally, it's important to note that if you've got a lot more body fat to lose, a 1% target is going to be more suitable for you because you just have more body fat to lose, whereas someone very lean, say someone getting ready for a contest bodybuilding show, focus on that 0.5% weight loss target, and obviously the lean you become, the slower fat loss can be. Then it's simply a case of just measuring your progress, making changes, and then repeat the cycle. Measure, make a change if necessary. One other thing is worth considering is potentially a high carbohydrate refeed day. I won't discuss that in detail, but that would only be necessary for a relatively lean individual, probably somewhere around the 12% or less body fat mark. Then it's a case of focusing on being consistent and being patient. So I promise you, follow the above principles, you will make progress, but it requires lots of tracking in terms of food intake and both your body weight measurements, body fat percentage, photos as well can be very useful. Hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully you can start applying this immediately. If you're still yet to download that free ebook, like I mentioned, you can go to James Layton, Layton Fitness.co.uk. If you see the tab at the top of the page for free ebook, you can download that immediately. Additionally, if you want to learn more about myself, the services and products I'm available, also go to James Layton, Layton Fitness.co.uk, and you can learn more there. Thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you next week. Take care.